So welcome viewers. This is a tutorial on doing a MVC style program website with Node.js and Handlebars template engine. And for this tutorial, I'm going to be using the IntelliJ Ultimate IDE, which provides excellent Node.js support. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is do this create new project right here, which I'm highlighting. I'm going to click that, and that's going to bring up a wizard for creating an application. And on the left-hand side, we have all the templates for our wizard. So I'm going to select Node.js and NPM, and I'm going to click Next. I'm just going to call this My Node MVC Intro. Now the important thing is by default, it selects Jade for your template engine. Switch that to Handlebars. What I like about Handlebars is it lets us use an HTML style syntax for creating pages, which I find to be a lot easier to read and understand. Most people are used to HTML and can read it. So I'm going to click Finish here. And what we're going to get is IntelliJ is going to create a skeleton project for us. So let's just give that a second to load. Okay. So it's almost done here. And boom. And you can see when we expand it on the left-hand side, this is our skeleton project for our Node.js. And the first thing we want to do here is work in this views folder and open up this layout.hbs file. Now, most people will recognize this. This looks like regular HTML because it mostly is regular HTML. You'll notice on line 4 here that we have this title. We're going to discuss that in a little bit. And then here on line 8 we have this body. There's 3 handlebars on each side, which means the HTML that gets inserted here is not escaped, which is what we want because our other pages are going to get inserted right here. But what's nice about this layout.hbs file is that this defines a template for our entire site. So we can put everything that we want on every single page here: CSS, JavaScript libraries, anything else. So let's start by adding Bootstrap. And I use the Bootstrap plugin for IntelliJ because it cuts down on a lot of keystroke. The other thing we need is we want jQuery because that is a Bootstrap dependency. So now we have jQuery and our Bootstrap libraries and CSS. IntelliJ did generate a style.css file for us so that we can define custom CSS. We're not going to use that here, so let's just get rid of that and get it out of the way. And now we're going to move on to our home page. What we're going to make on our home page is basically a registration style form that every one of us have seen on the web, so it's not going to be anything crazy. But this becomes that, if you remember that triple body tag, everything that goes in this file gets inserted at line 16 on our layout, okay? And that's going to be true for our other page that we're going to make. So that we're literally just working in the HTML body section at this point. So let's begin by creating a Jumbotron. And we're going to do welcome to Node.js with Handlebars. And we're just going to put a fancy little, this demonstrates a form with Node.js. We're going to blow out that because we don't need it. Now let's make a form here. So first we'll make a Bootstrap container and then a Bootstrap row and column. We probably could get away without all this, but you always have to think about extensibility down the road. Now let's make our little HTML form. Okay, so we now have a form on line 11. So the first thing is action, which we're going to just route to the root of our project here. Method is HTTP post, which is what we want, and then we have to add an encoding type, which we're going to just have form URL encoded. Now let's flesh out our form. In the legend, we'll just say enter registration information. And now we're just going to define a series of text boxes. So we'll do first name. Now it's very important that we remember the name attribute because that's going to correspond to the request body later on the server end. So I'm just going to keep pointing that out as I do this form here. So there's our first name. Now let's do last name. So there's last name. Again, updating that name attribute so that way we can access it in the request body later on. So very important that we continue to update that name attribute and we remember it for later. Now let's do email. Again, name, very important. Just gonna kind of drill on that for repetition's sake. And now we want 2 password fields. And this time we're going to change the text to password. There's our name again. This time we're going to get rid of placeholder. We just don't need it. And it's right there. And then we'll do a confirm. And that's it. This is all we're going to do for this form here. Okay. So this is going to, all this HTML code here will live between the body tags on this layout.hbs. So now we got to get to the server code. And the server code is what we have to tell the server what to do when the browser makes a post. And we're going to do it in this index.js file, which IntelliJ was kind enough to generate for us. Now, for anybody who's ever done anything with Model View Controller, this is going to look very familiar. We have a request, we have a response. We don't need this next, so we're just going to get rid of this. And you'll notice on line 6 we do this rest.render and index, which corresponds to our index.hbs page. And what that's going to do is that's going to grab layout.hbs, it's going to cram index at that body handlebars, and it's going to make them into one HTML page. If you remember from layout, we have this title variable here on line 4, and you'll notice that it's sending in the response body title express. Let's change that to welcome to Node.js, so that way we get the proper title, and that's going to render the view for a GET request, but we need to handle an HTTP post, so it's not real hard. All we got to do is router.post. We're going to map it to our root, and then we define a JavaScript function with request response. And then what we can do is we can work on the body. So var body equals request.body. Now this body object has a property for each name field on our form. Okay, so we just do that, and what we're going to do here is define a request body, and let's do first name body.firstname. And IntelliJ is actually smart enough to introspect this for us. And we'll do email like that. So now all we got to do is send a response back to the browser. So we'll do response.render. We're going to make this new welcome page, and we're going to send it this response body. And that's all we have to do for the server code. So now let's make a new page. And this is the page that we're going to show, that we're going to redirect to after we process our HTTP post. It's not going to be a very difficult page. It's 3 Jumbotron. We're going to make a Jumbotron. We're going to go hello, handlebar, first name, last name. If you notice, these first name and last name correspond to first name and last name. And then we're going to do an email one also. IntelliJ introspects that for us. And we're going to do and then we'll do handlebar email, which again will get picked up. And then we can just do a I don't know, well done. Okay, so that's all we got to do. Now let's run it. Now if you're a user of IntelliJ, I like to go into this edit configurations here, which is the default configuration. If you click on this browser live edit and then just check this after launch, and that way you will get Chrome to launch. And as soon as that notification gets out of my way, we're just going to hit this debug button, and that's going to fire up Node.js. And you can see our form here. So let's just fill out the properties of our form. And then if you click submit, we're going to make a post, and you look at that. It inserted Bob at first name, it inserted Belcher, and then it inserted Burger Bob at stonesoupprogramming.com. So now before we leave, I just want to show one more thing. If you're using IntelliJ, it's actually very easy to debug this. So I'm going to throw a breakpoint here in at line 18 here. And I'm just going to make my request again, okay? And if you inspect body, you will see it has the value of each text box on our form. So it's very easy to see how this is working. You know, you get an incoming message and a server response. And IntelliJ even populates body.firstname is Bob, body.lastname is Belcher. So it's very easy to debug these applications in IntelliJ. So that's all I have for this tutorial here. For the text tutorial, please visit my website at stonesoupprogramming.com and feel free to leave any feedback in the comments sections. Thanks for watching.